To understand what is happening today in the Middle East, we have to start much earlier, because conflicts like this rarely begin in a single moment. They develop slowly, over years, sometimes decades. And the tension between Iran, Israel, and the United States is one of the most complex political relationships in modern history. For Israel, Iran has long been seen as one of its most serious security threats. Iranian leaders have repeatedly criticized Israel's existence as a state, and the Israeli government has argued that Iran's military ambitions, particularly its nuclear program, could eventually pose an existential danger. Iran, however, tells a very different story. Iranian officials say their nuclear program is designed primarily for civilian purposes, such as energy production and scientific development. At the same time, Iran positions itself as a major regional power that opposes Western influence in the Middle East. These two narratives have shaped the political landscape for years. But the tension is not only about nuclear technology. It is also about influence across the region. Iran supports several political and military groups in the Middle East that oppose Israel, including Hezbollah in Lebanon and other allied organizations. Israel views these groups as hostile forces positioned near its borders. This has created a long history of indirect confrontation. Not always open war, but constant pressure. Cyber attacks, covert operations, intelligence activity, and occasional military strikes have all been part of this shadow conflict. The United States plays another crucial role in this situation. For decades, the U.S. has been one of Israel's closest allies. Military cooperation, intelligence sharing, and political support have connected the two countries closely. At the same time, relations between the United States and Iran have been tense since the 1979 Iranian Revolution, when Iran's government shifted from a U.S.-allied monarchy to an Islamic republic that strongly opposed American influence. Since then, sanctions, diplomatic standoffs, and negotiations have repeatedly shaped the relationship. In recent years, the focus has again turned toward Iran's nuclear program. International negotiations attempted to limit Iran's nuclear capabilities in exchange for economic relief. Supporters argued that these agreements could reduce the risk of future conflict. Critics said they did not go far enough. As a result, tensions remained unresolved. Meanwhile, the broader Middle East has continued to evolve. Regional conflicts, shifting alliances, and global power competition have all added complexity to the situation. In such an environment, even a single incident can quickly increase tensions. And when several powerful countries are involved, the consequences can extend far beyond the region itself. This is the context behind the headlines. Because when people hear about rising tensions or possible military action, it can appear sudden. But in reality, these moments are often the result of long-term political pressure that has been building for years. Understanding that background is essential, because without context, it is easy to misunderstand what is really happening. In the next part, we will look at what triggered the most recent escalation and how the situation between Iran, Israel, and the United States reached its current level of tension. In international conflicts, escalation rarely comes from a single event. Instead, it usually develops through a series of incidents, responses, and reactions that gradually increase tension. In the case of Iran, Israel, and the United States, the situation has been shaped by several overlapping factors. One of the most important is the ongoing dispute over Iran's nuclear program. For many years, Western countries have been concerned that Iran could potentially develop nuclear weapons. Iran has consistently denied that intention. Iranian officials say their nuclear program is meant for civilian purposes such as energy production and scientific research. However, critics argue that some nuclear activities could allow Iran to eventually build weapons if it chose to. Because of this concern, negotiations and international agreements have repeatedly tried to limit Iran's nuclear capabilities. Some agreements temporarily reduced tensions, But disagreements over enforcement, sanctions, and political trust have often caused these agreements to weaken or collapse. At the same time, the Middle East has experienced a series of regional conflicts. Iran has built influence through alliances and partnerships with different groups across the region. Some of these groups are strongly opposed to Israel. Israel views this network of influence as a major strategic threat. Because of that, Israeli security strategy has focused heavily on preventing Iran from gaining stronger military capabilities in the region. This has occasionally led to covert operations, cyber activity, and targeted strikes against suspected military infrastructure connected to Iran or its allies. These actions are often part of what analysts call a shadow war, a conflict that exists below the level of full-scale war but still involves constant pressure and confrontation. The United States is deeply connected to this dynamic. As Israel's closest ally, the U.S. often provides military support, intelligence cooperation, and diplomatic backing. At the same time, American governments have also attempted negotiations with Iran to reduce tensions and avoid a larger regional conflict. This has created a complicated situation. Because the United States is sometimes both a negotiator and a strategic actor in the same conflict. Another factor that increases tensions is the geography of the region itself. The Middle East contains several strategic shipping routes, energy resources, and military positions that are important not only for regional countries, but also for the global economy. Any conflict that threatens these areas can quickly affect oil markets, trade routes, and international security. Because of this, even relatively small incidents, such as drone attacks, missile strikes, or naval confrontations, can raise fears of wider escalation. In recent years, the frequency of these incidents has increased. Each side views its actions as defensive or preventative. But when multiple actors respond to each other's moves, the situation can become unstable very quickly. This is why analysts often describe the region as being in a constant state of fragile balance. A balance where tensions exist, but large-scale war has often been avoided. However, when that balance is disrupted, the consequences can spread rapidly. Because once military action begins, political leaders must respond not only to external pressure but also to domestic expectations and security concerns. And that is when a regional tension can suddenly become an international crisis. In the next part, we will look at the most important question: what could happen next? And why many governments around the world are calling for de-escalation before the situation grows even more dangerous. When tensions between major regional powers rise, the most important question quickly becomes, what happens next? In situations like this, the future is rarely predictable. International conflicts are influenced by many different factors: political decisions, military strategy, diplomacy, and public pressure. And each of these forces can change the direction of events. One possible outcome is escalation. If military actions continue and each side responds to the other, the conflict can grow larger. History has shown that when several countries become involved in the same crisis, the risk of wider regional instability increases. This is why many international organizations and governments often call for restraint during moments of tension. Because preventing escalation is usually easier than stopping a conflict once it expands. Another possible outcome is diplomatic pressure. Even when countries strongly disagree, negotiations often continue behind the scenes. Diplomacy may not always be visible to the public, but it plays a major role in preventing conflicts from spreading further. International actors, including global organizations and regional governments, often try to reduce tensions through dialogue, mediation, or economic measures. These efforts are rarely simple, but they are often essential for maintaining stability. It is also important to remember that conflicts like this rarely affect only the countries directly involved. They influence global politics, international alliances, and economic systems. Energy markets, shipping routes, and regional security arrangements can all be affected when tensions rise in strategically important regions. Because of this, governments around the world often monitor such situations very closely. For ordinary people, however, the most important thing is understanding the situation calmly and clearly. Conflicts are often surrounded by strong opinions, emotional reactions, and rapid information. But understanding the background, the interests involved, and the possible outcomes helps create a more balanced perspective. The situation between Iran, Israel, and the United States is part of a much larger geopolitical picture. It reflects decades of political tension, security concerns, and regional competition. And, like many international conflicts, its future will likely depend on a combination of military caution, political decisions, and diplomatic efforts. Understanding these dynamics does not solve the conflict, but it helps us understand the world we live in. Because global events rarely happen in isolation. They are part of long histories, complex relationships, and decisions made over time. And sometimes, the most important step toward understanding the future is simply taking the time to understand the present. This is Hidden Depths.